Hello everybody.
Hello.
Good to have you here. My name is Hamza Bitucci. I'm from Roma tribe. I'm very, very honored to have this amazing possibility to announce this evening tonight. Just very shortly, you see this sign? This is the signs of Roma tribe. This is our logo. It happened because I was in a forum theater workshop 2009 or whatever. It was by a workshop by Coringa, by Barbara Santos and Christoph Leucht. So forum theater is something what always follows us but also brings us to a new step. And for this I'm also very honored to explain that forum theater is not just art, it's also activism, but it's also a way of communicating to each other in a way that I would say is the best way of tools for education, tools for humanizing, but also tools for healing. And tonight we have the great pleasure to have Jana Sanskriti here from Calcutta. So they, we say in German, die haben keine Kosten und Mühe gescheut. I don't know what is this in English, but maybe somebody can translate this. So we have Sanjoy and Sima here, who will talk about the fight for social justice, and especially for the aim of where we are now in this actual situation. Would be also great if after this talk we have something like a tool that we can follow on. I don't know, because in the Coringa or in the forum theater, mostly we are trying to get something like a Lösung, like a result, a solution. We never have one, 100%, but we try. And this is also why it's important that in this talk tonight we are trying to find something like a solution for something what is really, really difficult, because social justice, it's a very big aim. And now I just want to welcome very warmly Sanjoy and Sima on the stage. Thank you for having you here. And just one thing before I forget, a small commercial for the weekend. On Saturday and on Sunday, between 11 and 18?
13 and 18. 1 to 6 p.m.
1 to 6 p.m. genau so. 1 to 6 p.m. we have an amazing workshop. So for all of you who would like to join, there are some spaces free, not so many. So immediately go to the webpage of Volksbühne and wie heißt es? Anmelden. Register. I very recommend it. Sanjay and Sima, the floor is yours. Thank you for having you here. Thank you.
Bring two glasses of water.
Yeah, could be. So, thank you very much for coming to experience this boring speech. I don't know. We are basically performer on stage, but performers on stage and off stage also, of course. We are actors on stage and we are activists outside the stage. But over a period of time, we have been feeling that we need to also understand why we are doing it, and we are convinced that the politics and the philosophy should not be ignored while practicing theatre of the artist or any form of theatre or art, let's say. I don't know how to begin, but if you don't like, just raise your hands and I will stop. Right? I feel like speaking and sometimes it goes here and there, so please excuse me. He mentioned, I must formally thank Christoph and Barbara. They are my family, so I forgot to thank them, but I should do it. Peter is one of my family member. Till woman is there, very old friend. They are like my families. So, thank you to all of you for creating such opportunity that we are meeting after a long time. COVID completely disconnected us, and now we are in touch. It's a great privilege. So I am enjoying this evening today. Since my friend talked about the workshop, I tell you, the workshop is all about techniques, right? But to me, technique is 1%. Technique is 1%. But 99% is your attitude, and 99% is how you connect to your audience, your spectators, and how you feel oneness with people, how you feel togetherness with people. I think that's most important. If we keep everything as theory, then there is a limitation. You are limiting yourselves. But when the theory becomes your realization, it becomes something very effective. So, what we prefer today, what we have realized, that techniques are not so important. It's important only when you realize what you have to do. So that is why the discussion sometimes is quite interesting, but I don't know how to start. When you said social justice, to me, what is justice? I feel injustice when I was asked to listen, when I was asked to watch, and when I was asked to carry out order that comes from the center. So this sort of centralization, where we did not have any space to debate, to discuss, to argue, was also injustice to me. Because injustice is, for me, the greatest injustice is when we try to make people dependent on us. When we appear as an alternative power to the people, while challenging the power, while challenging the state, government, we become an alternative power to the people. That's the dangerous thing. That we have to be very aware of. So when people see us as an alternative power that can bring justice for them, that can bring benefits for them, then ultimately you are making them dependent. Ultimately you are inculcating an authoritarian culture. When the people are growing with this kind of authoritarianism, then they don't feel like reacting against the authority in the government. They think it's fine. In the family, the patriarchy. Outside family, my trade union leaders. So fine. Every time, everywhere I find the authority. So what is wrong with the authority? So authoritarianism is becoming internalized in a way. You can see, I'm not talking about theatre, but theatre is politics, as Boal says. Theatre as politics. When you were talking about acting and activism, it's on stage and off stage. It's a continuation. We are actors, we are activists. So therefore it is politics. Theatre is not supporting to a political action. Like the NGOs, they have their community communication development skill of such kind of things. They think this is the main activities, and theatre is supporting us. For us, theatre is not a support service. Theatre is politics because I will tell you the history, because we went to the village as activists and then found theatre as a tool to reach people. So we didn't experience the line between acting and activism ever. For us, acting, activism is the same. There is no difference. We don't see any line. I'll come to that point later. But what I was trying to say in this atmosphere today, in a very friendly chat, you can see, if I explain you the Indian context, you can see the current government in India, they are actually cutting the workers' right terribly. And the most unfortunate thing is the workers do not understand, because they don't know that their rights were curtailed by the government, because they were not aware of their right ever. They thought we have leaders to bring better wages, to bring bonus. So therefore, we are supporting the trade unions, we are in the trade unions. Trade union never talked about the rights. It never talked about what is a community of workers. Should we have caste system within us? In India, we are caste divided society. So we didn't talk about the caste. We didn't talk about the religiosity. India is a multi-religious, multicultural, multilingual, plurality in diversity. If you think this sentence was manifested in India very well. I think if you compare the entire globe, India was a country that used to always express the plurality in diversity, plurality and unity together, the unity in diversity. So we didn't talk about it. So naturally, when the rights are taken away, we don't understand. So ultimately what happened? We encouraged self-interest. 200, 500 workers together demanding higher wages. But everybody is thinking my wage will increase. So everybody is participating in the struggle with the self-interest. So it looks as if there is a collective struggle, but actually it is not a true collective driven by self-interest of the workers. So this promotion of self-interest, promotion of making people dependent on me, yes, depend on us, be our member, we will look after you. You don't have to worry. Be the blind follower. So this kind of attitude has destroyed the confidence of the workers. So in India we are suffering. When we are fighting for the workers' right, we don't see the workers understanding that their rights were given by the government. So this kind of, this is to me is injustice. Then in other words, what is the gross injustice to me? Gross injustice is when you are taking away the intellectual space from the people. When your politics is refusing the fact that every individual is essentially intellectual. So you are not also thinking art as a basic need. When you talk about basic need, we think about bread, butter and shelter. Bread, butter, shelter are the basic needs. Why not art is the basic need? Art should be the basic need. We should have demanded art as a basic need. Because only when you cultivate art, society appears to you, the art appears to you as social metaphor, and you get critical about the society. You cultivate your intellect when you cultivate art. So therefore art is a basic need. Therefore we think theatre is a political weapon, the most powerful tool that we people have, human beings have, that is art, that is theatre. And if you see that this was realized not by us, it's 5,000 years before. For example, in India, there was a dramaturgy written by one guy called Bharat, is 5,000 years before. They thought of having theatre in the society because people need intellectual space. People are intellectual. Only they are not aware of it, as Boal said. Only they are not aware of it. But perfection already exists, intellectual faculty already exists. So our duty is to see that it manifests. People should realize that they are thinkers. That is justice. If you don't allow people to realize that they are intellectual, they are critical thinkers, and they can very meticulously think, critically think, then you are doing injustice. Because you are taking their intellectual space. No, you don't have to think. I will think on your behalf. It's like this. But if you look at it, 5,000 years, you have rights to disagree with me, and I am not an expert. I am not delivering any theory. I am just giving you my realization, what I have realized while doing politics. When I was asked to direct Antigone in Greece, let's say 4 or 5 years before, the Greek professional actors, they said, we want to be directed by you, the Antigone. I said, no, I can't. I am a theatre of the person, but I don't have much experience. But they forced me, and then I went. So they took me once to the place where Antigone will be performed. I was astonished to see the theatre. 15,000 people can sit in Epidaurus city. I said, 15,000 people? So after the theatre, it looks like as if a football match is over, soccer match, So many thousand people. And this theatre, having capacity of 15,000 people, were excavated by the German archaeologists in late 19th century. It was under the soil. They excavated it and found this theatre. And it's almost 5,000 years old. And there were city-states, people say. The Epidaurus was a city-state, and they had roughly a population like 15,000 people. So they arranged theatre for all the citizens. So when I am saying this theatre is a basic need, or art is a basic need, it's not something I am saying this. It's not just our theatre creates an intellectual space, but it was realized even by our ancestors in Greece, in India. If you see, they found art as basic need. But if you see the modern system, market fundamentalism, they want to make theatre as an industry, creative industry they call it. You have to buy health, you have to buy education, you have to buy culture, you have to buy art. So in the name of making it creative, everything is based on logic of profit. Everything is profit. This is market fundamentalism. And these market fundamentalists, they don't think art is a basic need. Why do they not create access for every individual to access the art? That should be our demand. That should be our demand. It cannot be eliticized. It cannot be a commodity. The state has the responsibility to see that every individual can access to the art. Right? So, what happens in forum theatre, theatre of the oppressed? Essentially, I am telling you. Because my friend talked about acting and activism. I have forgotten his name. What is his name actually? I should mention his name. Hamzen. So Hamzen mentioned acting and activism. I was listening to him from the back. You see, what do you want to do in forum theatre, for example? In theatre of the oppressed, one of the aspects is forum theatre. What do you want? Do you like to solve the problem? No. Because there are problems we deal with cannot be solved on the stage. In 1 or 2 or 10 forum theatre sessions cannot solve this problem. For example, patriarchy is an age-old norm. Can we change it overnight? No. So why should we try? If we try to solve the problems, we are actually narrowing down the scope of the participation. Because you know you want people to solve the problem. You are not allowing them to go beyond the frame. No critical thinking, solve the problem. So if you impose this pressure on the people that you have to solve the problem, then you are actually narrowing down the scope of the participation. That means the intellectual space is getting restricted. But if you say, no, solving problem is not our objective, then what do we want to do? We want to develop a critical understanding around the issue. So, what is understanding? Because people know the problem you are portraying on stage. It's their life, it's their reality. So, are you saying something new to the people? They live 24 hours in this reality. So, they know it. They know the problem. But it is about understanding. So, it is a journey from knowing to understanding. That is what I call intellectual journey. For example, you are portraying a scene of a domestic violence, for example. A husband is beating his wife, for example. So then, what do you want? You want to quickly solve this problem. You cannot change the mindset of the male so easily. So what do we do? What do we try to do? We take the audience deeper and deeper into the problems so that they can understand how patriarchy is controlling their thoughts. Sometimes the women, because of their upbringing from their childhood, it becomes internalized. So they think there is nothing wrong to follow a patriarchal values. I have been taught by my parents from my childhood to follow these values. So when they get to know this construction of mind on the question of patriarchy, then they feel like deconstructing it. So understanding patriarchy from a concrete manifestation of, let's say, domestic violence, that they know and they are understanding how patriarchy acts in their head, in their thoughts, in their mind. This is the journey, I call it intellectual journey. That is why theatre is an intellectual act. Understanding patriarchy from a concrete to the theory, from an effect to the cause, is the intellectual journey. And in this intellectual journey, what do we want? We don't want to deliver peace in mind. In our theatre, you cannot have peace in mind. We will disturb you intellectually. You have to go back home with disturbance. That is what we want. This intellectual disturbance breaks the passivity. It breaks the passivity and makes spectator, my teacher said, Avasthuval said spectator. So the spectator, they become activist because the passivity is broken. So we are not going to solve the problem. We are scripting intellectual power, actors, spectator together. We are scripting intellectual power, and that intellectual power is breaking the passivity and making actors activists and the spectators activists. So if it doesn't happen, that means your process is incomplete. Foreign theatre is incomplete. Theatre of the office is incomplete. If you find this is happening, it's moving from on stage to off stage, means your process is complete and it's really going to change the reality of the people. So this is, so naturally when you talk about injustice, that means you have to, if you have to justice, social justice means you have to create an intellectual space for the people to grow intellectually. They evolve as critical thinkers. And this evolution of as critical thinker is the aesthetics of the life. You see, aesthetics in India is interpreted in a different way. I will not go into it in detail, but it is not all about seeing. So when some people say, oh, your theatre was amazing. Then I say, it is the structural beauty. It is the structural beauty of the theatre. One dimension of aesthetics. But the important dimension of aesthetic is when you are intellectually disturbed and evolving as a thinker. From a follower to a thinker is an aesthetic experience. And we have to cultivate that aesthetics in our art, in our theatre. So that is what we call justice. Means you are giving freedom, you are creating space for the intellectual faculty they have already within. You are creating a space so that they can manifest their power to think. That is justice. And when that is denied, justice denied. You see, everything can be solved. Everything will be easy to solve. It will create an optimism within the people. Nothing can make people pessimistic if they are allowed to, if they experience their intellectual growth. Nothing can make them pessimistic. They will be optimistic. So it will be easier for us to continue our struggle for our rights. So to make people optimistic, we have to ensure the justice. What is justice? Justice is recognizing the intellectual faculty of the people. So now, if you say, yes, foreign theatre is a fantastic, I think, discovery by my master, where we can jointly discuss, debate, argue. And this argument is, in this argument, nobody wins. Nobody is defeated in this argument. Everybody is arguing to create the roads, create the path. So ultimately the path wins. There is no winner, and so naturally in an argument, when there is no winner, that means there is a convergence. People are converging as opposed to alienation, which our market wants. Our market wants us to alienate, create alienation in the society, create individualism in the society without recognizing individuality. So, theatre, what it does, it converges people because it allows you to argue where you are not trying to win. So there is no dogma. And this culture of debate is very much Indian. In Indian tradition, we forgot because the colonial masters, they gave us a lens through which we only discovered the bad things in our tradition, nasty things of our tradition. We really did not see the tradition very objectively. But the argumentative Indians, represents the argumentative tradition of India. So, Boal or Freddy to me was not something that I imported from South America to India. I felt as if it was there in India. So, if you want to know further, I can take you to the details about what I think. There is no theory, I have just seen. But, listen, when you are arguing together, first of all, you are not trying to win, and then there is a precondition. There is a precondition. What is that precondition? Joker. People say, how many jokers you have? Oh, Sanjay, you have 30 satellite teams. Jana Sanskriti has 30 satellite teams. One is at the center, the coordination team, and it has 30 satellites. So we are a composition of 30 teams, close to 500 actors in the group. So then people ask, how many jokers you have? For 30 teams, do you have jokers? Why joker? Why not actors? We have 500 actors. Why are you asking about the joker? That means by keeping joker at center, we are actually inculcating a patriarchal norms. It's a kind of patriarchy. Patriarchy is not always, it doesn't appear to us always with the gender dimension. It's also, why joker is all important? The team is important, but for team and joker, what is important? Important is to genuinely respect people. Joker doesn't need any modules. The skills and techniques cannot make a joker. I tell you. We have performed in different language group in different countries. We succeeded in conducting forum session. Because for us, we think, as an individual particularly, I think, that it is not technique, it is the attitude. Every individual is essentially intellectual. If it is a theoretical belief, you will not be a good joker. You have to realize that people in front of me are all intellectuals. You have to see them as intellectuals. You have to feel them. This is what I call togetherness. You know, togetherness with the people. They and we will not make a good joker. That is where I see the presence of a word that you might get quite objectionable if I say this. This is what I call non-duality. A relationship of non-dual nature. It's from Indian philosophy I am asking. I am telling this word. So, since non-duality is something that a joker must acquire and the actors must acquire, the non-dual nature of relationship with the audience. I tell you, just in Halle, Abdullah, a gentleman I met, and he took us to a statue, to a sculpture. It was a sculpture of Nasiruddin, Mullah Nasiruddin. He said, they see this guy is from either from Syria or from Turkey. So he said, yes, we know him very well. Nasiruddin, he was a good storyteller and a spiritual guy. You see, don't get nervous. I am not talking about church or religion. So he has a fantastic story. And I learned a lot. When I explain the role of a joker, I tell this story to you. What is that? Nasiruddin one day decided to see his Mursid. Mursid is the spiritual teacher in their sect. He's a Muslim sect, Sufi Muslim, and in their system they call spiritual teacher as Mursid. So he decided to see his Mursid, right? So those days there was no transport, so 3 days he walked. After 3 days of walking, he finally reached at the door of his teacher's house, right? And then he knocked at the door. The Mursid from inside said, "Is there anybody there outside calling me?" Nasiruddin said, "Yes, I am Nasiruddin. I have come all the way from my village after 3 days of walking, Mursid. I am here waiting." Silence. After that, nothing is happening. And then again he knocked at the door. Murshid from inside, the teacher from inside said, "Is there anybody there outside calling me?" "Yes, I am Nasiruddin. You know me well. I am your disciple, Nasiruddin." Silence. Nothing happened. So he did it for a number of times. What went wrong? He is there inside and not opening the door. So he was very shocked. He was moving to and fro in front of Murshid's house and thinking, what went wrong? What went wrong? And then he said, I realized something. Then I went again to Murshid's house. And he knocked at the door. Murshid said, "Is there anybody there outside calling me?" Nasiruddin said, "Yes, it's you." And the door opened. So, there is no I and you in a relationship. It's about you. There is a very beautiful sentence by Kabir, one of the middle-aged saint in India. You see, our middle age is quite enlightening middle age. It was not like Bruno was burnt alive. This is not, there was no such charge. Our middle age was quite enlightening. So, you see, Kabir said, the lane of the love is so narrow that two persons cannot go at the same time. Two persons cannot go at the same time. The Kabir is telling, either you will go or I will go. Two separate persons cannot go through that lane because the lane of the love is too narrow. That means we have to be one. If we are one, if you and I are one, then only we can travel to the lane of love. You see, this is non-duality. And this is what a joker essentially needs. The actors essentially need. If you have this attitude, then you can, in your intellectual space, everybody will feel like speaking, everybody will feel like articulating, everybody will feel democracy. You can politicize the democracy. So that is how basically you can experience an argumentative, intellectual, critical space for understanding it, and people will evolve as critical thinkers, and by making them critical thinker, we can justice. That is the justice we want. I think I would stop here because I have spoken already 39 minutes. So, if you allow me, I will keep speaking, but I think you can ask me questions. Isn't it good? Instead of me speaking longer, you can ask. Isn't it good? So you can ask me the questions. So this Malati, the woman she is referring, is a very old activist. She initially used to be beaten up by her husband.
Yes.
Because she was acting. But slowly, not overnight, her husband realized that it was a great act. It was giving them social prestige. It is a matter of social prestige. So then he decided to carry our props. And when his wife is performing with her team, if there are some handouts to be distributed, he would do this. He would bring the team at home. So now he does this. But it took time. So our experience is that we have changed a lot of it. Like for example, when Sima was telling, I was remembering, there is a very recent study you will get in our webpage, janasanskriti.org.in. there is a study conducted by not theatre person, two economists, very leading economists in the world, and they have conducted a study to see the impact of our theatre on women. And there you can see they did not see, in some places they took 38 villages from our operational area and 78 villages where we never worked. So control and treatment, they compared. And they, in many villages, they did not have any sign of domestic violence. Physical domestic violence. Physical level, mental level there is. But those areas were famous for physical level of domestic violence. And you won't believe, they also interviewed those people who used to carry the dead body of the women for post-mortem. From the village, they would go to subdivisional hospital with the dead bodies of the women for post-mortem. Those people have no work because there is no dead body now. They went to the police station. So absolutely, you can see in India there was an attempt to discover the best local government in the country. India is such a huge country. Germany is just a small state. So in these huge countries, the government of India engaged professionals to understand the best local government, and our area was identified as the first in the country. First in the country. Because the women and men were so powerful and they democratized the government in such a way, they did a lot of creative work. And for all the parameters, they went first. No child marriage in that area. So it has changed the life of the people, because what Sima wanted to say is that they were not only dealing with women's issue only, alcoholism, domestic violence, patriarchy. Not only they addressed this, they also addressed health issues, education issues, corruption in the local government. Child marriage is patriarchal, eviction. So they addressed other larger political issues, major political issues. So as a result, as an effect of addressing eviction or corruption, automatically the family got democratized. This is one angle. And the other angle is that you said humanizing human beings. See, when you, our intervention in the community is not for once or twice. It is consistent. So the village we entered 37 years before is still our operational area. If you go there, you will see 3 generations watching theatre. Grandfathers, grandmothers, their sons, daughters, and grandchildren. The 3 generations watching. That means this intervention was continuous, consistent. So naturally, you see, this is what I am going to another aspect. In our party, I was a party man, and introspection was something that people, no, why introspection? See outside, So, but introspection today I feel is very important. Unless I experience a revolution inside, I really cannot create a revolution outside. That is the problem where, that I think, if you say what went wrong in our late politics, I think this is one of the major lacunae, that we never encouraged ourselves to introspect. But when you are performing a play, for example, an agricultural worker, for example, is oppressed outside his house, but an oppressor inside his house, beating his wife. So why don't we see this? If we have to create a revolution, we have to first make that agricultural worker free from patriarchal values. So, what happens when they see the play on domestic violence, for example? They are seeing, at some point they think, oh, it's me on the stage. I am on the stage. So the moment he discovers that it's me on the stage, I act in this way in my regular life. I beat my wife. This is my action on stage. They are showing how I act. That means he is looking at himself. He is looking at himself as the spectator of his own actor. See, the moment he is the observer and he is the observed, when the observer observed are being one, he discovers an oppressor in him. And then he feels like fighting that oppressor. And as a result, one can humanize himself. And that's how you can see, we have seen a lot of husbands, like he referred one example of Malati's husband. There are many husbands in our group today who have changed their perception of life. Through, probably, theatre is also a space for introspection. We introspect. Is it clear? So I can tell you a lot of anecdotes.
Thank you so much for the wonderful, spirited lecture so far. I'm learning a lot. I had a question about when you said we're not here to create solutions. We're not here to ask the people to solve the problems. But I wonder, in these times when there are all sorts of slogans being shouted, like dismantle the patriarchy, defund the police, out with Nazis. These are things that are very easy for people to remember, and I think that there's some part of all of us that can really resonate with calling for things like dismantle this and defund this and out with these people. And I'm wondering what you think about when we call for this. Is there a space also to directly address the problem, or is theatre more a place to mostly for understanding?
So can you just repeat the essence of your question?
Yeah. You had said that theatre is a place for us to more deeply understand the problem,
Right.
And not for a place where we can necessarily ask people to create solutions. But in today's society, we see a lot of things like people are calling for direct solutions. They say, how do we address the patriarchy? Well, let's dismantle the patriarchy. And I'm wondering if you think that there's a space for that. How do we bring that perspective in, where that's a very clear solution sort of being proposed? Is that something that can be included in the theatre as well, or are we there to say no? Let's not say things like dismantle the patriarchy. Let's more understand how the patriarchy works, and maybe accept that we'll never be able to dismantle the patriarchy, but that all we can do is understand it.
Right. Actually, we are saying the same thing. If I make my understood well, actually you and I are saying the same thing. Basically, our objective is to dismantle patriarchy, dismantling authoritarianism, for example. So how can you dismantle it? I was talking about the process. The process is creating intellectual disturbance, understanding the mental construct on patriarchy. Then only automatically does dismantle this whole process, it starts. When I call it scripting intellectual power, means understanding how this construction is controlling me, and then you automatically get the inspiration to deconstruct it. So dismantling this process starts with very strong perception. It's not that someone is saying, you have critically understood the need to dismantle it. So it happens. If you see Jana Sanskriti's experience, Sima would have said more actually if she is given the liberty to speak in Bengali. It is when we first started in 1985, for example, we had no women actor in the team. No women actor. The men used to act as female. We used to play female characters. And some of the members in Jana Sanskriti, when they in makeup, you won't be able to differ. You will completely foxed because they would look like women. So we had some women performers, but they were actually male. But now, she mentioned we have 9 all-women teams where the women act as men. And if you see, the women with the shirt will be considered as male characters. So we have 9 all-women teams out of 30. And if you look at 500 actors, 75% or more are women. And you will see in many teams, mother-in-law, daughter-in-law acting in the same team. Mother, daughter acting in the same team. When women were not allowed to come outside their house, now you can see the mother-in-law is acting with daughter-in-law. So the culture is transmitting to the new generations. That is what I call dismantling patriarchy. Did you get my point? Yes. Should I?
Yeah, I was interested because you talked about the intellectual disturbance, and I was interested in how you both feel about your responsibility to people that have gone through this disturbance and then maybe go home and find, loads of disagreement, and maybe for a while that can cause a lot of hardship for them because they've had their eyes open to things that are going on. And yeah, I wondered how you see your responsibility in helping them move on after that point of intellectual disturbance.
You mean what is our responsibility after?
Yeah.
Disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is very clear. You must have understood that in Jana Sanskriti, in name of our group, we have spectators forum. We used to call them spectators forum, but then now they call themselves as Human Rights Protection Committee, HRPC. So that is composed of men and women. And then the women have their different committee, women's committee. Then now we have young adults committee, adolescents. So in each village, in our operational area, have 3 committees. HRPC, Human Rights Protection Committee, Women's Committee, Women's Forum, and the adolescent forums. So after the play, when you are disturbing them intellectually, we are also keeping in touch through the committees. We are going to the committees. We are talking about the plays. Sometimes this also happens. You see, Jana Sanskriti's model, one of the model is, they call it Jana Sanskriti model, that is, we take the same play to the same audience at least 3 times. Sometimes 5 times. If we see that people are still debating. But 3 times is compulsory. You have to take the same play to the same audience. And that is why we give enough attention towards structural beauty of the play, so that people can feel like seeing the play twice, thrice. It should be beautiful. So we avoid naturalistic pattern of theatre. We use a lot of image. We do focus on artistic part of the play. So when you are going to the same audience in a month interval, 3 times to the same audience, that means what we call, when you see the forum theatre, we call it collective action. And this 1 month is a reflective action. Then again collective action. So every 1 month they are following through collective action, reflective action, collective action, reflective action. So we are completing a cycle. So then they have the privilege to discuss the issue 3 times. Maybe your play has 3 intervening points. You have 3 intervening points where you have decided to call audience, or audience would say we want to intervene there. So if you have 3 intervening points, maybe 1 intervening point would take the 1 hour, 1.5 hours. So people will go back home. So next day when you go, they will deal the second intervening point. So that is how you are actually encouraging people to even reflect. After reflection, when they are engaging again, you can see the nature of intervention is changing. In the first intervention, there is a lot of violence. Second intervention, maybe not. So you can see the nature of violence. Nature of intervention is changing. And each team in Jana Sanskriti, now we have this smartphone, so you can record. But our village didn't have electricity. We had no roads. We had no toilets. We had no food. All these things came 10 years, 12 years before. So naturally, every team was given a big exercise book, this thick. So they would write, today in this village, such and such village, approximate audience, approximate women, approximate child. They would write this with the dates, and then the interventions, what audience is saying. In the first scene, first intervening point, Christoph said this. It's written. So they are writing. And then after the interventions are written, all the actors are signing. So nobody can, lot of research are happening on Jana Sanskriti, but nobody can challenge the authenticity of the document, because after the intervention is written, everybody is signing, all the actors is signing. So from those interventions, sometimes what happens, for example, 5 satellite teams decided to address one play on education. So they are performing in 10 villages each team. So ultimately there are 50 villages. If they go 3 times, means 100 times the interventions will be written. So then what we do, we quickly, we leave it for our archive, but quickly we try to understand the most commonly said intervention. That 3 or 2 intervention, 2 opinion were passed by all villages. All 50 villages. So then we take those interventions to the committees, HRPC committee, Human Rights Protection Committee, Women's Forum. So then they get to know what all other villages have said on this question, based on which they plan their activism. So that means we are not, after the performance, our responsibility is not over. We are studying the interventions, we are taking them to the Human Rights Protection Committee, Women's Forum. They are planning activism, and we are part of the activism. The actors, they are also part of that activism. So that's how the thing proceeds.
Thank you, that's very helpful.
Yes? Yeah, we want more questions, because you said up to 9. So I am saying the time. If I have finished before, then what is this man doing?
My question, thanks for the whole interactive lectures and about this GO in India as well. One question you mentioned, I think, that you have multiple groups around, I think 30, or I don't know how many groups you said.
30.
30. And I think you realize that I think you are one Sanjay, but you cannot joker all of the groups, right? And my question is, how do you manage to decentralize the joker roles in all these, let's say, other groups? How you can bring this with the same performance, or at least the same message to be delivered this as a decentralized joker roles in the whole Jana Sanskriti?
Yes. First of all, you see, in our group we continuously go through discussion, ideological ideas we deal with. Once in a month we all get together and have our monthly meeting, report about our activities. That is there. But we have a coordination team. We have a coordination team of 11 people. So each coordination team member is responsible to look after 2 to 3 teams. So if I am a member of the coordination, my responsibility is 3 teams, 2 to 3 teams, right? So then I keep training the jokers. I keep giving them feedbacks. I am asking someone to joke and then giving the feedbacks. This is went wrong. You could have done this. You could have done that. So one person is training the joker in 3 groups. So that's how we don't have to, none of us have to take the responsibility of 30 teams. Now we have more people actually to see what the jokers are doing. So the feedback comes and they do it. In each team there are at least 2 jokers. They can do it.
Thank you, Sanjay. I'm a little bit confused because, especially in my understanding from the political activity in Germany, is somehow the people who names them activists. For me, it's somehow like it's going to be a little bit, I don't know, it's too individual, because I can understand a joker should be really somehow in a same level with spectators and try to really be in the same level with them and try to also respect them. But my question is also, because you didn't also mention each even jokers also belonging to Jana Sanskriti. All of them also belong to one organization, and also you mentioned about the coordination team and so on. It's somehow the question is that because at least in Germany many people tries to speak about non-horizontal activism, no hierarchy, but I see in your activity there is organization, there is hierarchy, and it's also respected hierarchy as a part of the activity. I think there is no individual activist, because we have also something that we are really, or at least I can speak from myself, what I'm suffering about my around is the people are trying to be activists, they name themselves as activists, they read Marx, anarchist books, or so on and so on. They try to be in demonstration and so on. Therefore, they name themselves activists. But there is no real responsibility against organization. And I think even Joker, even he should be in the same level. I see there is some authority from the Joker. He gives the rules. He gives how the people can try the games. And then he invites the people to see the play, what I'm understanding with the rule of the Joker. That means, is it somehow for me confusion if there is a non-hierarchy, no authority from the Jokers or not?
Very good question. You see, it's the most pertinent question. See, as I told you, that to challenge the power, very often we became the alternative power center to the people. I told you in the very beginning, no? So, your question is my concern too. How can we not be an authority? That is why I talked about non-duality. Because non-duality is not a theory. It's a realization. Because in Indian philosophy, non-duality, when they explain, they think that thou art, you are the God. That means you are integrated with the whole universe. So that means you can't see any line, no hierarchy. But it is a challenge that we have to accept. We have to, that's why I tell you the internal evolution. Introspection, I mentioned this. So unless you introspect, you cannot see an authority in it. So when you see an authority through an introspection, you try to change, you try to combat the authority you have within. That is what is I call internal evolution. That internal evolution can really help you to create an external evolution. Without this, even if there is an external evolution, the authoritarianism will be there inbuilt. It will be there. It will be there like an atom, and then it starts acting. That is what the experience has told in the history and wherever it happens. So, first of all, we try to, it is true, when you are handing over the means of making theatre to the people in the margin, they are making their own theatre. I am not determining their issues. They are making their own theatre, right? So it is theatre of the oppressed, not theatre for the oppressed. So as a practitioner of theatre of the oppressed, our responsibility is to hand over the means of making theatre to the people. So even within them, there can be the authoritarianism. So we have to be very particular that this group, satellite teams, let there be no authority. In the name of promoting leadership, sometimes these are very tricky things, no? You are promoting the leadership in the team. And also you want them not to be an authority. It's very tricky. That is why I don't mind. This is the Rosa Luxemburg Strasse. But I don't mind using the word spirituality. Because you see, the spirituality is that you understand yourself, you are the observer and you are the observed. And you feel, you realize, you just not mere theorize. That is it. You see. So, when I am talking about cultivating oneness, cultivating non-duality, these are nothing but, so for me, let's be very clear, to me, politics and spirituality are two very inseparable identities. Right? When you imagine milk, can you imagine black milk? You can't. When you imagine milk, whiteness automatically comes. So milk and its whiteness, inseparable. Similarly, politics and spirituality are like milk and its whiteness. And when you don't see them as an inseparable identity, both could be dangerous. Both could be dangerous. Spirituality could be dangerous, politics could be dangerous. Unless they are properly, appear as a compound, inseparable identity. So that is what my spirituality is. So it has got, you don't have to have any faith, you don't have to believe in God, there is no such mandate. But you have to realize. I tell you a story from one of my doctor's friend. I have written this story in my book. So many of you have heard me saying this story. It's about a neuropsychiatric doctor friend. He said one day that Sanjay, I received a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning. So on the other end, there was a woman, and she said, "Doctor, I have decided to commit suicide. I thought before I put an end to my life, I would talk to you." So my doctor friend was, he is a psychiatric professional, he knows. He said, I talked to her for 2 hours. From 2 to 4 o'clock in the morning I spoke to her. And I was under the impression that patient would commit suicide. So my friend was very depressed. He went to bed. Next day in the clinic, he was feeling the patient. He was examining the patient and found a woman coming. And he looked at the woman and found that same woman who called him last night. He was super excited. Please come, visit it. And the woman sat. Then my doctor friend said, "Oh, 2 hours of my conversation worked. You have decided not to commit suicide, so I am happy." 2 hours of conversation. Then the woman was very relaxed. She said, "No, doctor, it's not your words at all." So my doctor friend was very, from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the morning, a professional spoke to you and you're saying, "No, not your words." Then he said, "Then what inspired you? What inspired you to change the decision?" He said, "Doctor, what you said, I have been hearing this from my friends and relatives for the last 5 years. They say the same things. You said nothing new?" Then he said, my friend said, "Then tell me what inspired you." He said, "Not your words, it's your attitude." "What do you mean by the attitude?" She said, "The first time I had a feeling that you were not saying things from your head. You are not unloading your knowledge. You are speaking from here. First time I felt as if someone is genuinely trying to save my life. It was not just words." So from that experience, I drew the definition of attitude. What you believe theoretically, when you realize it, then attitude develops. So if your attitude is correct, if you develop the right attitude towards the people, you can actually fight the authoritarian trend that constantly disturbs you, to follow. You can fight that. So this right attitude is what a joker and the actors need, and this right attitude can help us to constantly experience the war inside. This is what I call spirituality. It has got nothing to do with church or any religion, institutional religion. You see, our government in India is, they are using religion, and all political parties in India, they use religion because they see minority vote bank, caste vote bank, and our central government is looking for Hindu vote bank. They are polarizing it. They don't like me at all. So I would definitely want your support if any crisis comes onto me. Since I am well known in the country, they are calculating, but any time they can do harm, they can put me behind the bar. It is possible. So then I will require your support so that you can send the telegrams to the Prime Minister. So we are against religious fundamentalism, but I am very much, I don't have any fear to negotiate with progressive personality in the world of spirituality. I really don't mind. I find a lot of inspiration from them. And they are much more liberal. They can actually negotiate with the leftist politicians like us. But we feel always hesitant to talk to them. In South America, you know, Barbara is coming from that, and she will be able to tell you, during the time when Brazil was fighting dictatorship, lot of Christian fathers, liberation theologists disappeared. They are missing. They didn't come back. And love thy neighbor was interpreted in a different way. Father Mathala in Boal's Hamlet in the Baker's Sons, in his biography, you will see, he met a father in northeast Brazil called Father Mathala. He said, love thy neighbors. My neighbors are not the dictators or the capitalists. My neighbors are those who met in the mass last time starving, demeaned. They are my neighbors. The very class connotation is very clear. He said, my white cassock, this is white, I want it to be red by the blood of the rich farmers and the dictators. I don't mind negotiating with that sort of spiritual people. Let's not keep ourselves compartmentalized. Let's be united.
I have one more organizational question about Jana Sanskriti, and that's by you, Center. My question is how much money is involved in the activism structure in the 30 teams. So, like for instance, the actors, do you mobilize money so they get paid when they perform? The jokers, your coordination team, and that's the one question. It's maybe easier to answer, but the more question is, how do you see the role of money in activism? Is it promoting people, then they have more free time, they can be more committed, or is it make it difficult because it enters a market logic? Maybe, I don't know. That would be more interesting for me. How do you see the role of money in organizing activism?
This is a big challenge. This morning we went to BMZ. Peter took us. We are applying for some fund. And when 1985 we started, until 16 years, 2001, we did not have any institutional grant. So 16 years we are without grant. The market was not that powerful. I'm just telling you, now whatever we find here in a supermarket is available in India. So I used to buy a shampoo and a soap from the supermarket for my mother as present. She used to be very happy. But now the same thing is available there. So market is extended. And with the extension of the market, smartphone, cable television, privatization in education system, privatized health system, people's need have increased. People have more need now. So that is why the main folks are migrating to other states. In India there are states which are called source, means from where the migrant workers goes to the destination where they get job, better wage. So the migration is happening. So in our villages, we are really running short of men. Even in the audience, when we perform, 80%, 90% will be women. Because the men have left. They need more money. Need has increased. So 85 to, let's say, globalization, before the globalization start, it is still late 90s, need was limited, and all of us were not married. Then we got married, we had children, so the need arose. So therefore we entered into the grant. So then we required grant. But, so constantly we are combating financial crisis, because even though in Jana Sanskriti, all the activists, full-time activists, we maintain a very simple life. those who have met us in India, they know that our life is very simple. And we have some land from where we get the paddy, the staple food for the years we consume. We consume lentils from our village, from our land, and onions, also some vegetables. For 6 months, vegetables we get from our land. So that means we have place to stay, we stay together, and we have, our kitchen can be running. We can keep it in the running mode because we are acquiring rice and vegetables from our land. But we have children's education, we have health, we have many other things to maintain the generator, to maintain the center, to maintain the hospitable auditorium. So we need money. So naturally we are accepting institutional grant for ourselves to run the organization. We are hiring some couple of people so that they can write proposals and knock the donors, things like that. But when you talk about the satellite teams, the satellite teams, those, they are not whole-timers. They are farmer, agricultural workers. They don't depend on theatre. For them, theatre is not the source of livelihood. When we have grants, when we have money, we give them little money for show. Per show, maybe €1 or €2 sometimes, depending on the availability of funds. Sometimes no. But they do theatre as a passion and as their political work. They do it. They maintain their Human Rights Protection Committee, Women's Forum, all that thing they maintain on their own. They don't depend on institutional funding. But the core team in Jana Sanskriti, commuting from village to center, giving them workshops, so having programs, we need money. So money is needed for full-timers and to maintain the regular activities, but the satellite team members that I am mentioning, close to 500 actors, they don't depend on theatre. They have their own profession. Also each team collects when they have mini festivals, festive occasions, they collect money from the villagers, door to door they go collect money from the shops, establishments, because since they are present throughout the year in those villages, so they can easily go and collect money, donations from the individual. They are very small, but they can create small festivals, and after the festival all the villages can eat together. Some very basic rice and dal, they eat together. That they can do on their own.
Thank you.
A bit on that note, since the part-timers, I guess I'll call them, are kind of doing, this is part of their activism, doing it for free, not for their livelihood. I wondered if that impacts who can get involved in the activism, how much time they can give, or whether certain elite sections of those villages are the ones then that end up leading those committees, for example. I wondered.
No, there is how many hours I am working. This is not the concept in the villages. 1 hour, 2 hours. It is not that. So here you have. I will work for 10 hours. I have worked 30 hours. Peter works 30 hours a week. It is not the concept in the village. So if there is an activism for them, they meet regularly. Once in a month or twice a month, they meet. They discuss. Not always they discuss politics. Just chatting. Just they're getting united. That's it. You can find them if someone his daughter is married. So everybody will join to help that person. If someone has lost a family member, everybody will be there. So that sort of civil society activities, they would clean the hospitals. They would clean the hospitals. They would clean the child center, integrated child development center of the government. So that sort of work also they do. The adolescent would pick up the plastics after the village festivals. You see. So that sort of activity they will have. And also they will celebrate great people's birthday or any particular day they would celebrate. So activities are there. And these activities bring them together, no matter, and then they would divide their time. And when, for example, they would demand something, organizing a rally, or creating a deputation to the government, that sort of thing. They, with the help of our court team, with the help of the senior members of the elderly population of the village, they design this program. Right? When 2006, when Peter and I think Teal was also there, Augusto Boada was also there, 2006, there were 12,000 people on the street in Calcutta. So, for example, from the village to Calcutta, the transport system is not so easy like here. So they came 12,000 people. That is you require an organization to organize that number of people. So that they have within the group, they have leadership, they can give more time. But there is a mutual planning that leads to such activities, political activities. But besides that, they do a lot of civil society activities too, to keep their meeting alive. But they meet once in a month or twice a month, they meet. Any more question?
Yeah. Do you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can say. Yeah, maybe just a little question. It's about the curiosity actually of this. Because you are tackling a very critical topic, for example, for a local society, for example, in India, and you have been in many different villages, and I think your voice is not the regular voice of the places where you go, because you are coming with bringing something, let's say, an idea, that revolutionary idea for this kind of society where you are going and performing. And probably at some points in these remote places, maybe you are not wanted, right? Because this is the vibe of the whole, it's a tradition over these places. How you could probably bring your voice into there, maybe it could cause a harm for you, maybe at some point, or because some people are not, or these villages, or some people, or patriarchal places, that they are not willing to listen to you because you are bringing something out of their mind, and something is, maybe they consider you crazy of talking about these places, these ideas in that society. How could you deal with this, or how does it cause any harm, or how you tackle these issues?
No. Actually, what you are saying is you have to understand Jana Sanskriti's style of functioning. This happened when I first went to the village 37 years before. I had this problem. Because they thought, whoa, who is this person? Who was this person? Extremists, can be robbers, whatever. They had many apprehensions. But then I came across traditional art where the characters were extremely complex, contradictory, conflicting characters. You cannot support any characters. It's like Brecht was born in India much before he was born in China. Our epics are quite controversial. So these controversial characters inspired me to learn traditional art. So I started learning the traditional art. And that's how I received the acceptance of the villagers in the first village. I'm telling you. Since we lived in the village for the first 9.5 years, we were in the village. We lived the life like an agricultural workers, without electricity, without telephone, without roads, without toilets. Mud house, thatched roof, the life was terrible. But we accepted that life and we lived there permanently. Sima and I lived there. We learned how to harvest. We learned how to show the paddy. So that has given us the acceptance. So we are no more seen, therefore, as an outsider. We are seen as a part of the community. So that is the reason why they don't think we can speak their language. We can resonate properly. So that is our style actually.
Maybe just one. It doesn't make really sense to them what you told until now, but for me as a person who came from the origin of India, what is, thank you, what is, now it works, huh?
It works?
Yes, it's not so.
Mostly the story of the Roma people is written by non-Roma since hundreds, thousands of years. And they declare the language and the music from India. So it has some relation to Sanskrit. Is there something that people, no matter if they're now from, I don't know, I'm from Kosovo, they're from Romania or whatever, could mention to have a link to India through theater for press as a tool to realize not just the language, culture and so on? I mean also the political, the social, economic and all this stuff. Is there something that could work, or is it's not, it doesn't work, or it's too, how you say, it's too
So that means your question is divided in two parts probably.
yeah.
One, you think that whether it can successfully address the politics, economic, that it can, it does. There are a lot of such examples. We even acted against land occupation of the capitalists, modern capitalists. They wanted to occupy the land. We sometimes, to a large extent, we opposed the industrialization against. I mean, they were destroying the agriculture. So, special economic zones, they occupied land where we performed our plays and struggle went on. We did it. The India government now has 100 days work guarantee program for the rural workers. In 1989, we started this movement. We had a play called Story of the Village that was performed how many times? 1,000 times, I can't tell you. It could have a place in the Guinness Book. So we performed this play several thousand times through our satellite teams, and we went from Kolkata to Delhi 1,500 kilometers by ordinary bicycle, not your cycle like Germany. There's no gear, nothing. So we went by cycle to Delhi. Sima and I were there also. 55 days it took to reach Delhi. But we campaigned in support of our demand that even the employment guarantee should be given by the state. And in 2005 we went once, that time it took 38 days. And 2005, 100 days Work Guarantee Act was passed by the government. So a consistent movement demanding the issues of unemployment. We are consistent from 89 to 2005. You see 16 years. 16 years we didn't leave the land. We are in the battlefield. And finally 100 days work guarantee. It has come. We are responsible to make it a national issue. And now, if you think, is there any such work to understand the connection between Indian tradition and the Roman tradition. I am not very sure, but my experience of traveling across the continents, I can see things got migrated from one place to another place. The migration was very much there. And it is not the product of capitalism only. Those days they used to migrate. And you can see in Mahabharata, it was written almost 3000 years before. The queen in that epic was coming from Kandahar, Afghanistan. So a lady from Afghanistan got married to a man in Uttar Pradesh in northern India. So it was possible. That means the nation state, before the nation state evolved, there was no boundary. And people felt free to travel wherever they felt comfortable. So the idea of outsiders is a nation state's idea. I sometimes question, is there any word called outsiders? The border, outsiders, these are all nation states construction. So surely, I am not an expert, but I can try to find out from my researchers' friends, those who are focusing on this, discovering relations with Indian tradition and other things. I might get back to you later.
Thank you.
Yes.
There's no time.
Acha, one thing, that are you all coming tomorrow to the lectures? Because how can I say new things? Tomorrow also I will say the same things.
Tomorrow you will have to
Gustav,
answer.
you have to bear me.
Tomorrow you will have to answer the challenging questions of Barbara.
Okay.
All looking for
The challenging questions.
Yes, that I would love to, and I would love to be, even if I can't, and if I am to accept the defeat, I will be happy. But you have to hear the same thing. Don't complain. Tell me.
So this would be a question for also Sima, and if you can take yourselves back to when you first started working with Theatre of the Oppressed, and when you first started thinking we want to change things in society. Before you knew how effective this method was, and before you had the evidence that you really could make a difference, how did you manage the fear and the self-doubt and the hopelessness and the despair that might happen, when you see that something in society needs to be changed, but you're not sure if you are the one to do it? How do you keep yourself?
Repeating short because I have to translate.
Yes. How do you deal with fear and hopelessness and despair in yourself when you're not sure that what you're doing is making a difference?
বলছে তুমি তোমার মধ্যে যে হতাশা হতাশা যে আমি কি পারবো পরিবর্তন করতে, এরকম জিনিসটা হয়েছে, এগুলো তুমি কীভাবে সেটা?
In this question, I have to go with my language. না, হতাশা হয়নি, কারণ আমরা যৌথ পরিবারে থাকি। যৌথ পরিবার মানে শুধু আমার ছেলে মেয়ে স্বামী সেটা নয়, যৌথ পরিবার মানে আমার পুরো জনসংস্কৃতির দলটা, পরিবারটা।
He's thinking that we are living in a collective. Jautho means collective. So we have been leading a collective life for a long time. So my family is very broad. So therefore the hopelessness cannot easily touch us.
কারণ আমি যখনই আমরা অ্যাক্টিং করি সবাই স্টেজের মধ্যে, তখন একসাথে যেমন করছি, আবার যখন অ্যাকশন করি তখনও আমরা সবাই একসাথে, এবং ওর ছেলে মেয়ে আমার ছেলে মেয়ে, আমার ছেলে মেয়ে ওর ছেলে মেয়ে, এই মূল্যবোধে যেহেতু বিশ্বাসী, সেই জন্য আমার হতাশাটা কিন্তু আমি শেয়ার করতে পারি আর সবার সঙ্গে।
সবাই ভাগিদার হয়ে যায় তখন। সেই জন্য হতাশাটাকে ওভারকাম করার মন্ত্রটাও ওই পরিবার থেকে এসে যায়।
He's saying that we not only act on stage and off stage together, but our family has a lot of children. Because everybody has children. Their children is my children. My children are their children. So since we look after each other like our own family members, so whenever there is any personal level depression or any sort of political hopelessness, the government is not changing, things like that, or any personal problem also, we can share it. And people can, I don't feel lonely. I have people around to share my frustration, share my disappointment. So that helps me to be focused.
আমি এখানে চলে এসেছি, আমার বাড়ি ওখানে রয়েছে, আর আমি একটু চিন্তিত নই, কেননা আমাদের সংগঠনে যারা আছে তারা সবাই ওই বাড়িটাতে থাকে একসাথে, সেই জন্য সব দায়িত্বটা তাদের। তো আমার ছেলেও যখন ছোট ছিল, তখন আমরা যখন কাজে বেরোতাম, তখন আমাদের কোনো চিন্তা ছিল না, কারণ সব কিছু দায়িত্বটা সবাই মিলে ভাগ করা। তেমনি আমাদের গ্রুপের যে অভিনয় করে, তার মেয়ে অসুস্থ, সে নিজে যায়নি, আমি আর সঞ্জয় নিয়ে চলে গেছি তার মেয়েকে নিয়ে চেন্নাইতে, এবং 15 দিন ধরে তার মেয়ের সমস্ত কিছু চিকিৎসা পদ্ধতি যেগুলো চলেছে সেটা আমরা করেছি। তো এই ফিলিংসটা যেহেতু আছে, সেখানে হতাশার কোনো জায়গা নেই।
He is saying that we are here, but our parents are there. Now I have lost my mother very recently, and after I lost my mother, I didn't have to think. Everything, from the nursing home, taking the dead body to the cremation ground, and then all the rituals, everything was done by my group. I didn't have to see whether I have money or not. Everything was done by the group. So that is a kind of support, is our strength actually. It's not only the money, because we get very little money. If you consider the Indian NGOs, of my experience and qualification, they get quite a lot. But we get very little. But we have this support. We don't have to worry. And he's giving an example that one of our members' daughter was ill, and it was very difficult to find out when the diagnosis the problem. So then Sima and I took her to
Chennai,
south of India, Chennai, and we spent there 15 days with that girl, when our own parents were in West Bengal. They were not there. We took her. So that sort of cooperation is very normal in our group. So that protects us from being very hopeless around any issues. This is the strength of the collective life. You still have a question?
Just leading on from that, what advice would you give for people in the West who... Hello? It's not working.
We hear you here back.
Okay. Yeah, I think...
Speak loudly so that person behind you.
Yeah. My experience, I'm from London, and my experience is that at least in London people are very separate. They don't have those kind of networks. And trying to build those kind of networks is very, very difficult. A lot of people don't have that, or they've unlearned that in their lives. I wonder if you have any advice how that might be built, and what steps to take there.
Yeah, we can't advise, because the reality here is really different. And you can see the same reality is getting reflected in the urban India. In urban India also you will find the same thing is happening. Individualistic, alienated. I might sound quite unscientific to you. During the time of Corona, the people in the slum live in a very congested Indian slum. You probably, I don't know whether you are aware or not, but they live in a very congested place. But the housings, the multi-story buildings where rich, upper middle class, rich people stay, the Corona caused more problem to those housings than the slum. Some people didn't experience that much category. Probably it's the mind, togetherness. But in urban India, among the middle class, they are copying, imitating the West. So you need to tell them that don't follow us. But you see, in the West, the thing which I can identify the problems, because when you are confining yourself in the fence of individualism, then you are not connected. When you are not connected, you have fear. You are pessimistic. You will cultivate. So, idea is to bring back a community through theatre. Community building through theatre in a small scale is very important. Because ultimately you need to create connection. Because connection will take you out of the theatre.
Should we stop?
If not, we can.
I don't mind because it's already night.
Until tomorrow.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sanjoy.
Thank you.
We continue tomorrow with a more intimate format in Kuringa, in Wedding, having also Barbara with us online, like discussing about developments of theatre of the oppressed in a more, maybe more focused way. And on Saturday and Sunday, as Hans already said, we will have a workshop with Sanjoy and Shima here from 1 to 6 p.m. There are still spots open. You can register at the webpage of Volksbühne, or you can just appear also probably and then manage at the moment. We will start here back Saturday at 1 p.m.
So we would love to see you in the workshop.
Yeah.
If you all join, then we can do a lot of new things.
Thank you.
Thank you
for having me here.